Welcome to the Journey Podcast, a show about health, wealth, and happiness. My name is Adam Bruderly, and I am joined by my co-host, Michael Baker. Whether you're looking to revamp your lifestyle or seeking a spark of inspiration, join us on this journey and let's explore the world your health and wealth make possible.
All opinions expressed by Adam and Michael and any podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Journey Wealth. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for any health or financial decisions.
Welcome back to the Journey Podcast. Today we are joined by TJ Gliha. He is the president and co-founder of Journey Wealth. On top of that, and probably more importantly, he is a husband, father, athlete, entrepreneur, mentor, and really serves a number of other different roles. Today, he's joining us to really integrate in and talk about what we mentioned on our last show, the 4 pillars of wellness. So spiritual, mental, physical, and financial, how they integrate into his own life and at Journey Wealth. More importantly, TJ, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is going to be fun. Appreciate it.
I was a little worried you'd say no, but then I thought it might be a little awkward considering you know, Journey, the podcast, this is our firm and this is the show. So
yeah, I'm excited to dig in.
Appreciate it. Well, why don't we kick off, and if you could just share a little bit about your path to co-founding the firm, how you got here, and if, you know, really what was the tipping point that took you from where you were to founding the firm and in the evolution of it now?
Sure. Well, I think it goes back to when I originally went to college and in school, I wanted to be an attorney, and I always enjoyed learning about people, understanding what's important to them, and you know, helping solve whatever their needs are, and then took a pivot and ended up working for a derivatives trading company in Chicago and had a blast. I had a great time, got to work with some really amazing people, and in my maturation in my life cycle as a trader, there came a point where it was my first inflection point in my life where I saw where the industry was going and what my skill set was, and knew I needed to make a change. And so I used to work for a proprietary trading company, and I traded options on interest rate futures. I know that's a mouthful, but we were a proprietary trading firm. We didn't have clients, so we traded the backers, backed our margin for the accounts, and we traded. And at the end of the year, after covering expenses, the backers got a portion of the money, and then my partner and I and our team got to keep the rest. And it was awesome, so much fun, yelling and screaming in the pit, very competitive, could be very lucrative. But the way the industry was changing, it went from being relationship, risk management, flashcard math, aggressive yelling, screaming in the pit. And it was changing to now we're hiring computer programmers and PhDs from MIT. And I realized where my skill set was. And when I envisioned the next 30 years of my life, it's not where I want it to be. But what was difficult about it is that the team that I was working with were some of my best friends in the world. And it was really hard for my wife and I to make this decision to move our family from Chicago to Cleveland. Now, I was born and raised in Cleveland, so it was an easier transition for me. My wife grew up in Chicago. All our friends' support system was in Chicago. So I credit her. She had a lot of faith in me and what we were trying to build. So at the time, I knew I wanted to get into financial planning because I firmly believe that the 3 most important things we have in our life are time. Okay, it's our most valuable asset, and relationships and experiences. And I knew I wanted to spend the next 30, 40 years of my life, focused on a career and a job that I could, develop relationships, have an awesome experience with my clients, and learn. So I had a cup of coffee with UBS. Nice guys, great firm, but not where I thought the industry was going. And then had the opportunity to join Sequoia Financial. Sequoia was another top 30 RA firm in the country, fantastic firm, met a lot of great people, and I was there for 7 years, but realized I worked a ton with entrepreneurs and throughout my time there and life cycle as an advisor, I knew I wanted to sign the front of my paycheck and not the back. I wanted to control my own destiny. And so I had the opportunity to, take a leap. Another important part of my life is taking risk and realized I wanted to jump. And, had the opportunity to join a couple other wonderful people, and we started and co-founded Journey, and knew that we were in the wealth planning space, that we wanted to do more for our clients, not just manage money. I don't know if that answered your question, but it's kind of...
No, that's great. I mean, that's a fantastic story. I want to go back to one of the things you just said, though, inflection point. Specifically, we talked about that on the last episode, my own personal inflection point. And getting to know you over the last year, you're a very passionate person, right? Like invested in everything you do. When you think about inflection points, can you point to any specifics in that journey that propelled you to here, right? That really said, like, this is it. This is why I want to make this leap. On top of all the other things you just really shared.
Sure. From leaving my previous firm, leaving Sequoia and joining Journey, again, I felt a tug and a more of a push to take a leap in the entrepreneurial journey. And at the time, it was COVID. It was in the peak of COVID, and everybody was scared. There was a lot of fear in the world, both health scare, financial fear. Everything had changed. A buddy of mine in college at the same time was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And as I was, working out, going for a run, thinking about where I want, what does life look like post-COVID, I thought to myself, I gotta take a shot, right? We gotta take a shot. You get one crack at life, and I knew that, I wouldn't fail. It would just be redefining success, right? And so, and I don't even know if my buddy, he and I haven't spoken about this, that through his trials and tribulations and his health concerns, and thankfully he's still alive today, that it was the push that I needed to take the leap. It was an inflection point in my life. I prayed a lot about it, and I thought, if this is, it's funny. My grandmother used to say, I promise there's a point to this. My grandmother used to say, "Little bunnies have ears," right? And so, what she meant by that is you have children, and what you say and how you act and what you do, your kids are learning, right? And they're learning through osmosis, or they can hear you. But I wanted to, I have 3 boys, teach my boys that believe in yourself. There isn't a better thing in life than to bet on yourself, right? And so. It was a good as time as any to take that leap and to start Journey, and it's been a lot of fun ever since.
And that's amazing. One, to hear about your friend and know everything as well, but taking that tough situation and propelling it into something really positive and good. One of the things you mentioned in that specifically too is kind of talking about their boys and the bunny ears. Someone told me not too long ago a stat about kids specifically, meaning like a 90-10 type ratio. 90% of what they take from you comes from body language, how you carry yourself and the things you do. 10% is all the things you tell them. With my 2 kids, and after hearing that stat, I started to really think about it. I want to play that back less for your own boys, which we can talk about more here in a bit. More importantly, how do you bring that to Journey Wealth, right? How do you, as the president of the firm, as a leader, bring that type of dynamic and integrating that in, right? Like not only by leading with words, but leading with how you do the job and how you actually lead the firm.
It's funny you say that. So when I decided to leave trading, and again, it was I worked for a very incestuous group. We were very close. I loved my job. I loved the support system we had and the life my wife and I were leading. But I knew we kept preaching quality of life. Quality of life is most important. We have a finite amount of time on this earth. We want to live the best life we can live. And it was interesting, as I was debating or contemplating leaving, my buddy had one of those cheesy calendars, those cheesy calendars that have a quote on it, on a daily quote. And I came in and it said, "Don't expect others to listen to your advice, but ignore your actions." And I ripped it off. I put it in a frame and it's sitting in my office right now and it's on my desk. And to me, that means actions speak louder than words. So as a leader of the firm, and I profoundly believe in living the best life you can live, financially, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, I know that I have to lead by example. And I'm not going to get it perfect. I'm not going to get it right. And, there's going to be times where you fail. But if every day we can get better as a person, I can deepen the relationships I have and with my loved ones, with friends, with colleagues, employees, clients, et cetera. You lead by example, right? You show, don't tell. And so, and also it forces me and is a wonderful reminder to continue to get better every day. I mean, Kobe Bryant used to, and I use this when I coach football and the kids think I'm nuts, but look at yourself in the mirror every day and say, did I get better today? Right? Did I improve? Even if it's 1 inch, right? Even if it's a millimeter, but did I get better today? And so, that's kind of the motto that we have and the mantra we have at our firm is how can we continue to get better, improve in every facet of life.
And that's great. I mean, right, like in funny, that inch, that step, whatever you're saying, right? I bring it back a little bit to the financial wellness we talk about at the firm, right? Compounding interest, building on top of each other, small wins, right? Like that's a key component of all the things that I think you're doing in your role. You mentioned the 4 pillars again, and I want to pull those back into the conversation because in the last year or so, as we continued to iterate, right, in terms of those key pieces and what we're bringing in, how are you taking those 4 pillars of wellness and starting to integrate them to the firm, not only to the team, but to clients also? Sure.
So in our industry, I mean, we're a financial planning firm. That's at the core of what we do. We're a multifamily office for professional golfers and for ultra high net worth families. And we do everything from pay their bills, their bookkeeping, manage their assets, help them, obtain a construction loan or miles on their NetJet card, whatever. I mean, so the financial piece is at the core of what we do, but that's just a tool. It's a tool for them to live the best life that they can. So, beginning with our employees, and thankfully with your adding you to our team, we're able to provide our team members and employees the opportunity to focus on purpose-based planning for themselves. How can we get them, what do they want to achieve out of their career and out of their life, and how can they become the best version of themselves? So we want to focus on that. And when they feel strategic and happy and comfortable in their role, then we're going to be able to deliver better service to our clients, right? And so we want our clients to live the best life they can. And, we're fortunate that we do get to work with a lot of type A, very successful entrepreneurs who have been head down for 20 years, growing and growing their business. And we want to be able to help provide additional clarity on how they can live the best life. So, we kind of look at it as a triangle. You have your business, you have money on one corner, and you have your family on the other. And in the middle, you have your legacy. What do you want your legacy to be? So it's helping our clients define their legacy and then really putting together a plan and a track to get there. And whether that's with, life coaching, whether it's with financial planning, or if it's, a concierge doc or direct primary care, whatever it is, we want to form strategic partnerships to help our clients live out what they're telling us is important to them.
That's amazing. And I think I've really seen that since I have joined the firm in even a year, right? My opportunity to work with not only clients, right, that are at the firm and everything you just shared, but actually internally too, working with younger team members and, everyone else, having the chance to kind of give them that onboard coaching piece. And I've seen, I think, the value in that. And when you think about that and what we are doing, and then you take that and you look at the rest of the wealth management space, where do you see it headed the next 3, 5, 10 years? And is there any misconceptions you see that, why this hasn't been adopted more broadly, or where you think it could go in the future?
Yeah, in our space, historically, the maturation of our industry has always been primarily focused on investments. And as the industry has evolved, the investment piece is a commoditized piece of the equation. It's a very important part of the equation, but it's become more of a commodity. And technology will solve for AI, that's the big buzzword, but technology will solve for all the IQ parts of our job. It really will. It's the EQ which is going to separate the difference between a trusted advisor and not. And so we want to continue to focus on areas that provide emotional, spiritual, and physical health for our clients to deliver more. Financial planning and investment management is at the core of what we do, but we want to add additional services because that's what the clients are going to want. That's what they're going to long for, and that's how we can continue to deliver value to them and their families. The misconception in one of the misconceptions we have in our space is that we need to accumulate as much wealth as possible, right? And we should be focused on maximum return and portfolio growth. And I think that's important if that's what the client is, their primary goal and objective is. But for us, I feel like a lot of the time I'm telling clients to spend their money, right? Spend their money, go on a trip, buy the shoes, buy the bag, I think you and I have talked about this before. We had a client who monetized their business for a significant amount of dollars. And he and his wife were sitting in front of us and he said, "Oh, this isn't going to change anything. I'm just going to still fly commercial. We're still going to, clip coupons and do those things, and which is great." And midway through the conversation, his wife grabbed him by the arm and said, "Honey, if we don't start flying first class, our children will." And the reason why I bring that up is if someone's main objective is to transfer as much wealth to their children as possible, we can help with that. But if that's really not what people really want, right? They want to deepen their relationships with their loved ones. They want to maximize their full potential, both within their business or their role in whatever job they have, and outside of it, right? And so we want to help have those conversations to pool what's really important to our clients and help them get there. If someone's objective is they want to go on climb Denali with their grandkids, but they're 50 pounds overweight, they haven't talked to their daughter in 2 years, it's going to be awfully hard to do that. So we want to help them, get a lunch with their daughter or help them, get healthy. Those are the things that our clients want. That's what the industry, I think that's going to be a transition, is how do we do more for our clients in additional services besides just financially focused?
Yeah, that's great. And you and I have talked a lot about that story. And I think what I took away from what you just shared is value, right? Like reframing value to clients and really just not only our clients, but broadly within the industry. What does value really mean? And bringing that to them. One of the things you just shared that popped into my head when you're talking about entrepreneurs and families, and as you said, we multifamily, we work with a lot of ultra high net worth families, is that statistic, and you and I have talked about it, but by the second generation, about 70% of families will lose their wealth and about 90% by the third. What's really staggering from that is not, I think everyone assumes why, right? Oh, bad estate plan, they overspent their money, they didn't have the right trust in place, and no. 85% of it is driven by communication issues, right? And trust issues. And I think everything you just shared, right, about that disconnect with a son or a daughter, or not getting along with a spouse, or not being open and communicating and sharing, hey, do you want to take over this business? Or am I making you take over this business? That kind of gets back to that spiritual piece and purpose. And I think bringing that in that approach is really kind of bringing out value and what it really means to clients in the industry.
Absolutely. And when we deal with people's most sensitive topic, money is the most sensitive topic in most people's lives. I mean, people will talk about their sex lives before they talk about their pocketbook. They'll tell you what medication they're on before they talk about their pocketbook. So once clients entrust that that information with us, it kind of opens up the floodgates to other areas. And when we understand and hear the concerns of our clients, and we're able to provide a solution or add value in another area that we know that's important to them, that's what we want to do, right? And that's when I think that's where the value and where really the rubber meets the road. And I'm so thankful for the team that we have and the team we're continuing to build, because everybody's aligned on the same vision, right? And how can we live the best life we can? We're not solely focused on maximizing EBITDA or driving top line revenue growth. Managing a business is really important. I mean, that's why it's not show friends, it's show business, right? But you can do it a different way. We will always keep the client at the center of that equation. We will always keep the employee the center of that equation to help the employee and the client live their best life.
I mean, that's great. And I think what we're talking about is a little bit unconventional, right? I think we're maybe in the to use the old baseball analogy, right? The first few innings of this shift within the industry. And what I would ask is, how has it been received? Right? Like, you've been talking a lot about this really the last 6 or 12 months with clients. And what I mean by that is you've been having that purpose-based conversation probably for a long time, but now really wrapping these services around them and kind of bringing them to the forefront. Could you talk a little bit about what the dynamic has been?
Sure. It's been received extremely well. And the average age of our client is 50, 51 years old. And the younger generation, personal development is really important to them, especially on the entrepreneur space. How can I become a better leader? How can I become a better person? How can I grow my business, et cetera, et cetera? So, if we can help them in their personal development, it's been very well received. The old generation, I'm going to come home from work, I'm going to read the paper, kick my feet up and have a scotch. That's not really the way that, our generation is growing up. Today things are more focused on authenticity and relationship, which I so much appreciate. And so we want to double down on that, right? We want to continue to foster that. One of our core values is authentic. And for the clients that are open to it and that want to work with it, we're going to be ourselves and we're going to help them be their true self. And we've spoken in front of a couple different business owner groups, and it's been very, very well received. As you know, we've have a number of clients that are now engaged, both on the financial planning standpoint and the life coaching standpoint. And we've seen the progression. We've seen the transformation on several of the clients that even in a 6-month period of time, they're healthier in their physical, they've lost weight, their relationships are stronger, their goals are more clearly defined, and they're just more pleasant to be, they just feel happy and have a sense of purpose. We've talked a lot about this. Business owners in general, there's a stat out there, 75% of business owners profoundly regret selling their business a year later because they don't know what's next. So if we can help them define what's next, help them define what their purpose is, our job, selfishly, I'm going to be selfish here, but it's a heck of a lot more rewarding when you get to see somebody, live their best life or are on track to live their best life. And life's always going to throw curveballs, right? But that's why we do a ton of planning ahead of time, and we stress test the financial equation as well as the non-financial equation. It just is so much fun to watch and be a part of.
That's amazing. I think, again, what I'll take away from your answer in just the last 20 or so minutes is a level of fulfillment, right? Like, not only in what you're doing in your personal life and bringing that together in creating Journey and the last, couple years in developing those relationships with clients. And I would ask you, like, how has that experience affected or impacted your personal beliefs? Meaning, has it made any pivotal changes, any way you're thinking about things differently in your own life from all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think every time I have a client meeting, every time I learn so much. One of the things we've talked about before is mentors and thought leaders. And I'm a firm believer in you don't have to be a pioneer. You can be a settler. I don't have to be Lewis and Clark. We can be the dude that founded Chicago. but the relationships I have with my clients and what you can learn from the great things they did as they grew their business or they managed their personal life to other things that you're like, that's it's not what I want. Right. And so, being very goal focused has been one of the things that I've learned a great deal from. And, even as cheesy as writing something easy down on a piece of paper and then crossing it off. All right, I got to win. Like the make my bed. But from really personal, what we're building and developing, I feel like has been a core part of who I am and what I've done since I was a kid. I grew up in a household where my dad would say, "Discipline yourself so others don't have to." My brother suffered from cancer as a kid, and I've always kind of learned from ever since that moment is go for it. Life's way too short. Like take a shot. What's the worst thing that can happen? You fail. Okay, think about how much you're going to learn from it. So that's been, and the greatest success that I see in people's lives is when they get uncomfortable. They get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's where true growth lies. So I've learned that through working with our clients and in my own personal life, that every time I've challenged myself and have gotten uncomfortable, that's where the true growth lies. And that's what makes you grip that steering wheel and can't wait to get to work the next day. That's what, when you're going for a run or you do something different and you had a goal and you achieved that goal, how awesome that feels. And even if you fail, right? If you're training for a marathon and you ran 22 of the 26 miles during the race, but you came up, you hurt your ankle at the end of the race. Let's not lose sight of the 4 miles you didn't finish. Let's talk about the hundreds of thousands of hours that you spent training for that race and the 22 miles you did run, and how cool it is, and like and how alive you can feel.
Yeah, I think you're hitting home for me when you're talking about running anytime, but I think you're talking about, we get caught up in the destination, right? Everybody, to get a little bit, out of scope here for a moment, people talk about, I want to be happy, right? Well, happiness isn't a destination. It's a journey that never ends, right? The same about that, for example, that race. We get so caught up in, hey, I'm going to run a marathon, and if I don't finish, it's failure. Well, it's not, to your point, everything you just shared. All that progress from get to point A to point B, where I'm going with that is then pulling it back to clients, right? And when you think about, financial planning, retirement, wealth management in general, right? It usually anchors to a number, right? Like, I need X, then I can retire, then I can enjoy my life. And I think what I hear from you with clients a lot is reframing that so that they understand that, when you get to the end and you see this number and if we attained it, that doesn't mean we actually enjoyed the journey at all, right? How do you position that type of framework to clients to help them have that, for lack of a better term, eureka moment and understand that concept? Yeah,
I had a client. The gentleman was very successful, independently wealthy, ran a very successful business for multiple decades. And at the time, he was in his late 60s or early 70s, and he had a crumpled up piece of paper, and he put it out on the desk. And on the desk, he said, "In front of me is the most valuable asset in the world." And he said, "It's a currency that we all trade in." So I picked up the piece of paper, I looked over, and it said time. And he said, whether you're a billionaire or a pauper, we all trade in the same currency. So when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And so I took that and it was like, I'll never forget that moment, because if our only journey is to maximize balance sheet value, right, there's going to be so many things that you sacrifice along the way. I listened to a Dan Gable talk. Dan Gable, who is, arguably the greatest wrestler of all time. He won 20 national championships. I wasn't tough enough to wrestle, but this guy was intense. But one of the business owners that was in the crowd asked him, "Hey, how did you maintain balance along the way?" And he said, "Balance?" He's like, "I'm not your guy." He's like, "I was head down. I didn't have any relationships. All I did was eat, sleep, breathe, wrestling." And at that time, I remember leaving going, I don't want that. I think you can have it all It may not be all at once, but you can have it all. And so, my goal in life is to be the best dad I can be, the best husband, the best employer, the best advisor, the best person I can possibly be. I'm not going to get it right every day, but I'm not willing to sacrifice all of that just for a dollar figure. And so I think a lot of our conversations is just challenging people. Like, if you you're financially independent at X, you're X times 2 right now. So all these things that you want to put off when you're 62, 65 years old, stop. Let's start doing them now, right? Let's start doing now. Start today, not tomorrow, because tomorrow is not guaranteed to anybody. And then when if you look at the statistics, majority of wealth is inherited at age of 62. So if you're 62 years old, I'm not saying you use the baseball analogy, you're 6th or 7th inning, right? And where if you could start taking your family vacation when you're 50, I mean, the misconception that we need to save our whole life, and then when I retire at 65 years old, then I get to start doing cool stuff. Like, that's so backwards to me in the way that we should be thinking and how we should live our life. If I'm wearing sweatpants and hush puppies and trying to go, hike Denali, like, it ain't going to happen when I'm 80 years old. So
that's right. I mean, that's so well said. I believe that probably more than most. And I think there's an amazing book you and I have kind of traded, and I just want to mention it here because it is so good, but it's Bill Perkins and Die with Zero. And he talks about that so much, right? Like, the idea of inheritance and the idea of, when we spend and how we spend, right? And I think that's a key component, right? And I think about your own life. We both have the 4K weeks calendar in our offices. And for anyone that's not familiar with that, it's a calendar that kind of has a bunch of dots on it. The black dots are how long you've been alive, and the white or open dots that not filled in yet are how much longer you have left, right? And if you think about the average lifespan, I'm over halfway, right? And, if I wait another 20 years to do whatever I want to do, right? None of that is guaranteed and none of it is given. And with that being said, I think personally, you live that life, right? You live it in terms of, I know you coach football and you coach your kids, and your boys are all athletes, and you're there for them. I've seen you run around and kind of bringing it back to that balance piece, right? Like, I talk to a lot of clients that it's less of balance and more of a pendulum, right? And the idea that there are always going to be times that pendulum's going to swing way left or way right. The important thing is recognizing it and bringing it back when you need to and where you need it to be. So how do you, from a personal perspective then, like, how do you approach your own life, right? I know you work out a tremendous amount. You do the coaching. Are there a few things you could share, just with the audience in general about how you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, routine has been something that's been, and you and I have talked about this in the past, but like, the only thing I can control is my attitude and my effort towards something, right? The only true disability in life is a bad attitude. So I'm laser focused on my routine. So I wake up every morning, I have a cup of coffee, I read, I pray, I work out, and then it's go time, right? And it's work. But being very deliberate. And the one thing I need to do a better job of is I have the best wife in the world, and I need to do a better job of date nights. And you talk about pendulum, and that's an area of my life that I need to get better at. I mean, she's my best friend in the world, and I feel like when you talk about balance, that's one thing that suffers a little bit when you have 3 kids and you're running from sporting event and you're. But I think it's constantly evaluating where you're at, how you can get better, and being honest. I think so many people are afraid to have conversations and saying, I don't have this, right? Like, I need help. And so, I'm very thankful that I have such a close-knit support system. We've talked about in the past that, a vast majority of Americans don't have somebody that they can call at 2 a.m. if they need something. 44% of Americans suffer from, they feel socially isolated. And feeling socially isolated is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So that's crazy to me. So I just want to me is continue to deepen the relationships and be, if I haven't, like yesterday on the car ride home from work, I hadn't spoken to a couple friends, and I would credit you to this to prompting me to call a few people, and I just left them ridiculous messages on my voicemail and laughed the whole way home. But it was a wonderful reminder that you can't lose touch of the special people in your life, and when in doubt, place the call. Right? When in doubt, like I said before, take the trip, buy the shoes.
Send the text, right? I mean, it's funny you say that, because I see the tone of your voice and your face and just what you just mentioned about reaching out to your friends. I mean, I can imagine when they actually got that voicemail and how they felt, right? Like the impact of something so small that you just had on them. And I think that's it, right? Like you're taking that message and all the way you're living your life, and you're bringing that to Journey, you're bringing that to the team, you are bringing that to clients, and I just applaud it, right? Because it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to be a part of it. And there's something, when I ask you a question more often than not, there's a response that I get from you, and it's great, right? And I'm going to get t-shirts made just like Jocko Willink that say good at some point in time. I keep saying that. But with that, I mean, I can't imagine, you doing it any other way than, turning it up to 11 at times. So I'm a huge fan of Comfort Crisis, the book by Michael Easter. I know you have read it. There's a term he mentions, and he credits a gentleman in there, a doctor, but it's called a misogi. And the idea is there's 3 rules. You have a 50% chance of actually completing it. Have fun. And the last and most important is don't die.
It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I would say so. So, one thing I ask a lot of actually even clients, the team is proposing that to you when you look at, year in and year out. Is there something that you have on the horizon that kind of puts you in that place, right? It's a level of discomfort. It's hard. It can be painful in a good way, right? Of like exercise or physical activity, painful in a way of, emotionally or mentally just putting you in a space like, hey, if you work a ton and you say, I'm going to take 3 weeks off, if you can, right? Like that's hard for people. That's big. Is there something you're thinking about?
Sure. So last year I had a client who, for his 50th birthday party, he invited me on a ski trip to Big Sky, Montana. And after going there, it kind of, a flip was switched. And I grew up skiing, but I grew up on this, right down the street from this little hill, and I knew how to ski. But going out west, it's a whole different experience. And I was a little hesitant, and the fear factor of getting back on the skis, not having done it in 20 some years, was scary, but it was invigorating. And when I left, I said my 3-year goal is I want to hike the Highland Bowl and ski down it in Aspen. And this year, we got the opportunity to go out to Telluride and challenge myself a little bit more. Thankfully, I credit that to the couple of the guys that I was with, because they pushed me across my comfort zone. So I want to continue to do that. And so my 3-year goal is to hike the Highland Bowl and ski down it. There's definitely all the things that you just mentioned. There's all 3 of them. It checks the box. So I'm excited about that, and it's something that I've challenged my boys at home. We put a no plan B checklist, and it's the no plan B means here's my 3-month, my 6-month, and my 1-year goal. And in that we talk about it, like, are there things in here, even if you fail, like if you have, your 1-year goal has to be something he has a 50% chance of failing at. So it's been fun to have that conversation with my kids and to watch them track towards what's important to them.
That's amazing. That's a big one. And please let me know before you do it. I will purchase and give you the spot beacon before you go up there.
Yeah. You just look from my big head.
So I would say, as we kind of wrap up the conversation today, any closing thoughts or takeaways? I mean, we've kind of pivoted all over the place a little bit, but anything that you would want to leave behind for, listeners to think about, whether, hey, if they haven't even engaged in the financial planning world, like how do you start? If they are there, right, what is the next big leap for them? What should they be thinking about? Or, just personally, right? Like, I'd love to hear anything you're thinking about.
Sure. Well, I think to the first part you asked, there's never going to be the right time, right? The old Chinese proverb, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. So start today. So if it's financial planning, or if it's, I need to get my estate plan done, or, I haven't looked at this, like, start today. And I'm so thankful throughout our journey. We have 19 people at Journey Wealth, all dedicated professionals here to surround the needs of our clients that have unique skill sets that, we believe team is, in a team-based approach to financial planning and full, life planning. I mean, that's what we believe in, a team-based approach. So start today, not tomorrow. And that's a mantra that we can help with. And it's no matter how small or how big, we can help. And so I think there doesn't always have to be a catalyst in life. Everybody knows they need an accountant or an attorney or something, but financial planning, when deliberate, you can live the life that you want to live, right? You can create great habits, and we can help.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think you talk about it every meeting, every month with the team, in conversations, right? Like, helping our clients live the best possible life they can. TJ, would love to have you back. I think as a firm, as we continue to add more services, more things to surround our clients with, continuing to talk about this. Would love to hear you talk about your misogi, your kids, your family. So look forward to having you back on. Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, and excited to come back.
Great. And please join us next time, where we'll have Dr. Brad Patton from Acropolis Health, one of our strategic partners. Thank you.